I'm Jamie Seeker, and this is What It Takes. Each episode, I sit down with real business owners to talk about their journey, the wins, the challenges, and everything in between. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, and welcome back to What It Takes, Business Owners Tell All. I am your host, Jamie Seeker, and today I am thrilled to bring on someone who's been quietly and strategically reshaping how modern teams work. We're talking to Tom Nassr, the co-founder and CEO of XRay.Tech. It's a workflow automation company based in New York City, but Tom's journey didn't start in tech systems or AI bots. It actually started with a creative design agency called Checkmate Digital. And he built and sold that successfully back in 2019. Now, with XRay.Tech, Tom is on a mission to help people spend less time doing repetitive work and more time in what really matters: meaningful, creative, human work. His approach to process management and strategy is super intentional and human first, which is exactly why I personally wanted to bring him into this month's topic and talk to him about maybe how we can do that in Seeker Solution in our business. So today we'll dive into how automation fits into your overall business strategy, what mindful work actually looks like, and how to think differently about scaling through systems, even if you're not a tech expert. So let's get into it. Welcome, Tom.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
So let's go a little bit back a bit. What led you from running a design agency to launching this tech automation company? Was there a strategic pivot or a natural evolution? Like, how did you get here?
Yeah, it's a fair question. The place that I actually started, even before the design agency, was in the philosophy world. So that's what my degree was actually in, and that's what I studied quite extensively. And
Awesome.
I
You and me
ended up,
both. I had a
really.
minor in philosophy. Yes, I love it.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, it was something that I just really enjoyed in
Yeah.
school. And I ended up building this design agency and this design company to start to accumulate the skills of like building digital systems and building tech things. I just thought that that was a really appealing way of taking ideas and sort of forcing them into the world. And through my agency, the UI UX work, user interface, user experience work that I built at Checkmate Digital, we ended up learning a whole bunch of these skills. I mean, quite literally, my first contract to build a website was $500, and I just went out and started Googling, how to build a WordPress website in a week for $500. And I just kind of started rolling from there and slowly, networking and building more connections and raising the price tag ever so slightly, and realizing, what my time is worth and how experience kind of compounds on itself. And then you find your niche and all that stuff that I'm sure we'll get to. But really, it was asking a whole bunch of questions to begin with, and why are certain things done in a particular way, and the intersectionality between philosophy and high tech was really what got me interested in this whole world, and I kind of grew from there.
That's actually really cool. I'm really excited to hear a little bit more about that too. When you said like I just love philosophy, I'm like, that's how my minor happened. I never intended to do it, but I really liked those classes, and it's really cool to see how you've kind of ingrained that into your work now. Like I think this is going to be a great conversation for me. So, okay, so let's go back. When you started X-Ray.Tech, it was what, 2021?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
2021, I started doing contracts in 2020, but
Okay.
the doors officially opened in 2021. Yeah.
Nice. So what was your core vision? Like how has that evolved since the company's grown? Like I'm sure normally when you start, you're like, hey, this is what I want to do. This is how I've done it. And sometimes, you fast forward 5 years and it's definitely the same. Sometimes it's kind of tweaked a little bit. So talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that.
So in 2020 and early 2021, the idea was, hey, software can do a whole lot more than what people are like asking of it. Like if you pay for a piece of software, you might use 10% of its features when it can do a lot more for you. You just don't really know how to make it do more for you. So the idea was, hey, I think the big thing here is designing the way that people work. Now, this is pre-ChatGPT, right? This is pre, large language models, before things really took off in that direction. And we were saying just with automation, the bare bones with like Zapier or Microsoft Power Automate or Make.com or like any of these major automation providers, right? You can just connect these tools together. And the idea was like, we should be able to design the way that people work using the software that they're already using. I can create time for you. And we thought that this was a whole discipline, a whole new vertical that was being created. And we're seeing that really play out today. But at inception, we were thinking, hey, we can make time for people. And just with automation, we can make time for people. And now it just kind of has the plus AI at the end, and sprinkled into really specific places where it actually makes sense. I think way too many people are just thinking AI is a magic bullet, but that's a different conversation, different rant maybe. But in this case, it's much more about the person first and designing the work that they do and making sure that it's a little bit more fulfilling and a little bit more consistent, and you know what to expect, you know how to do it, and you feel good because you're able to accomplish something. And we wanted to design systems for people that gave them that satisfaction.
Yeah, I was just talking about that with my guest in the last episode, and we were talking about process and how the process is intended to support people, not the other way around. And what we find ourselves is that many of the processes that are in place, like people are kind of like bending and shaping to fit into that process. And it sounds like you guys kind of saw that core at the very beginning and we're like, no, you don't need to work that way. Like this is for you. Actually, just in how we're even building it is for
Mhm.
you. And I think that's a unique perspective. And I have this conversation with my team actually very regularly now that the technology is evolving and you're saying all these things and you could just like insert AI into everything that you
Yeah.
just said from back in 2021. That's how
Yeah.
quickly these things change. But it's always challenging them into how can we leverage what technology is doing now with our current systems and our current process. So I'm going to ask that question to you. How do you define your process management? Obviously, I'm sure your product has a lot to do with it, but like I'm talking more for how you run your business and your company.
Yeah, it's a really great question. A lot of it begins on the types of consistent behaviors you want to enforce and the outputs that you're trying to create. So when we do consulting work for our Fortune 500 clients or for, funded or growing startups or small businesses, we really try to focus on the outputs that they know are working and are good. And at the end, right? Hey, this is an example of something that happened the right way, or this is the result of something that happened that is of good quality. We might change the process that led to that output. So we always start outcome first and say, all right, hey, this document is like the perfect proposal, or this customer is set up perfect in our financial system, in our QuickBooks system, right? We want to make sure that everyone is always filled in just like this. Great. Let's start there. Now, when we go back into the actually designing and creating the process, we ask questions about like, where do these data points come from? What is your source of truth on X, Y, or Z? And who puts that information in, a person or an automation? And as you start to assemble these different data points or these different components that contribute to the end result that you're trying to generate, you realize that maybe your, 10-point to-do list only really needs to be a 2 to 3 point to-do list, and automations can be leveraged for the rest of it. And the person feels so much more empowered because now instead of onboarding one customer an hour, they can onboard 7. And they want to, right? People want to feel useful and contribute to the overall mission of the organization. So, when we're supporting and designing these workflows for organizations, we're much more focused on organizations that are amplifying people and are trying to extend their faculties as opposed to limit headcount, right? That's a very different angle to do a lot of this workflow design, work. But our consulting begins with the end, right? What is the output that we're trying to generate? And then we rigorously question all the ingredients that contribute to that outcome, to try to just figure out where they come from and how to do it in a more repeatable and consistent way.
I like that. Start with the end in mind. It sounds silly or simple or however you want to say it, but I do find that that leads to the most success, really,
Yeah.
especially if you've got if you've already experienced success in that area. So then, what would you say are the biggest process related mistakes that you see in small to mid-sized businesses? Like what kind of mistakes are we making in that area?
Way too many people try to automate a process that they have never performed correctly yet.
Ah,
Right?
yes.
You don't have what a good end state is, what a good result is. You don't know what that is. So you can't automate something with it. So many companies, so many firms come to us and say, "Hey, we're trying to create AI agents that do X, Y, and Z." Okay, well, show me what this research document looks like now. Well, I don't have it. Right? Show me what this, competitor analysis looks like, or show me what this, if you don't have an example, what are you building towards? And most importantly, when do you know that it's done? That's the thing that I think is really tricky when you're working on a process that you haven't conducted previously, at least not in a consistent way, is it's way too easy to move the goalpost and continue to try to build and build and build and build towards this like imaginary goalpost that you'll never actually reach because you don't have a ground point. You don't have an anchor of like, this is what we do today. Can I match or beat what we do today? Right? That's what you have to be able to do when you're starting to do workflow design and automation and implement AI in an organization is begin to say, hey, this is where we are today. This is the standard. Can I match this? Can I beat it? Yes or no? And then worry about the other fancy features and the other things that you might be able to do. Great. But if you don't have a baseline, don't touch it because it's just not ready for automation or AI yet.
Yeah,
Plain and simple.
that's really good advice. What then, how do you balance the need for the flexible system, that you're still trying to hone in and get better, really efficient, versus having structured processes? Because I'd imagine that you're always going to kind of be learning and growing. Like you're not going to have every single little detail I mean, unless you've been in
Totally.
business for 50 years or something like that, and you have this one thing that you do really, really well, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think most small businesses are pretty robust, and there's always going to be things that you're learning and growing or whatever. So how do you in fast moving teams? Because I think that's the other thing too, is keeping up with it. And
Yeah.
that's why we're looking at automation and automating more and more because we're trying to do more, sometimes with less, but leveraging the technology to do that. So talk to me a little bit about how you approach balancing that flexible system versus that structured process.
Yeah, it's really two buckets. One is the happy path, which you hope people go down every time, right? You hope that when you onboard a new customer, they are willing to sign an NDA and they give you all their contract details and they click and sign the DocuSign the first time that you send it to them, right? That's what you hope onboarding is like. And your automation can and probably should do some fragment of those things, right? But the non-happy path isn't a bunch of automated actions that somehow try to course correct and shove it back into the happy path. That's not the right automation. The right automation is, hey, so and so signed their NDA with a different name than or a different company name than the company name on their contracting form. Those two names don't match. Slack notification. Hey, somebody look at this. Hey, person, this actually requires your attention.
Mm.
That is how you design systems that can account for flexibility when you design the happy path that you hope everyone goes down and you throw off really precise and pointed notifications to the right person with the right context to be able to go in, triage, and fix whatever issue it is. And maybe if that same issue happens again and again and again and again, then you design a process around that one issue. But to come in and say, look, I have a spider web of N8N automations that look beautiful in a screenshot and can account for every possible variation of someone doing something wrong and during my onboarding process, you're just lying to yourself and you're just wasting a whole bunch of time.
Well, and that kind of reminds me of your philosophy that I saw robots do the routine and humans do the remarkable. What's a real world example of that from maybe one of your clients or something that you've experienced so that anybody who's listening might be, oh, okay, I totally do that. Maybe I should maybe I should tune in right here and listen to some key takeaways.
Yeah, one really remarkable moment I think from the past couple of years uh, was actually during COVID. We had a medical manufacturing client that supplied buffers and solutions. They're still a member actually, but they supply buffers and solutions to scientists so they can do tests, right? Building vaccines and stuff. You need to mix, you think of the beakers, right? You're pouring things in, right? That's what they did. They're a manufacturing company that like supplies labs all over the world, one of the largest in the world, these buffers and solutions. And the every single lab, as you can imagine, chemistry, there's a lot of permutations of things. And all these labs around the world have all these really unique combinations of requirements for their buffers and solutions. And this was, as you can imagine, an enormous Google spreadsheet, right? An enormous spreadsheet. And we operationalized this spreadsheet to be able to essentially through Airtable and a series of formulas and really rigorous workflow design for how the sales team and the operations team work together. How do we compile and dedupe and build these pricing sheets and the real like the inventory requirements needed to be able to ship out all of these buffers and solutions to all these different labs at the same time. And I'm really proud to say that they were able to source the labs who actually came up with several of these COVID vaccines, partly because they were able to do this way better, way faster. Their business, tripled during this time period. And it was just amazing to see that it like actually it could have grinded to a halt because of a spreadsheet, right? And that changed. And that was a really key moment in how we can amplify the people that are in the middle of ops, in the middle of sales, in the middle of, inventory management to just work smarter and do the things that they thought were really important and not, pixel pushing and updating a spreadsheet, 70 times a day. It was really exciting to see. That was like a remarkable moment for us as a team to see that those little tweaks in how people work can have such amazing ripple effects.
Well, and I think that's a key point in automation is leveraging it to build capacity for the things that you are really, really meant to do in your job. Because if we do an evaluation of our time, typically in a day, a lot of stuff is in the weeds and things that maybe you shouldn't be doing, but it just has to be done, right? And
Low
so
leverage work. Yeah, low
yeah, so
leverage
I
work.
like I love your approach there. And I ask everyone this too because this podcast is called What It Takes, Business Owners Tell All. And I think you've got a great approach to automation and just putting process into your business operation. So I'm interested to hear what you think from a business owner standpoint. What do you think it takes to sit in
Mm.
that seat and really, I mean, whether it has to do with, process or anything like that, or just what do you see? What do you see there that it takes?
The legendary question, isn't it?
Yes.
From the through line from what we've seen of organizations being able to take the next step, I think a lot of it comes from being able to um, both admit when you know that something is actually wrong or could be done better, and having that level of humility around the things that aren't perfect and the awareness that it could be better, but also the resilience to come back and try. And I think so many businesses get hung up on, yeah, of course it could be better. That's not the hard part. But I'm not willing to try to take the next step and to know that the next step's actually not going to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be a continuous iteration process, and you're going to get halfway there an infinite number of times,
Yeah.
right? That's you'll get really close. At some point, you'll get really close, but it's still only going to be halfway, and
Yeah.
that's okay. I would say, the thing that it really takes is the awareness that you're only going to get halfway there, whatever that incremental improvement is, but it's still worth doing. And over time, that pays tremendous dividends when you can compound those time savings or those earnings or whatever. I mean, those concepts are, I think, very transferable, right? Compound interest and compound time savings, or any of these things that add up over time. I think that's what it takes, is that mindset and that willingness to try it.
Yeah, compounding your time-saving activities and just being willing to try to get yourself there. I think the people who
Hmm.
are the most successful just keep going, right? So Tom, thank you so much for dropping some serious insight today from what simplifying process strategy, teaching us how to think intentionally about automation. And I think, for me personally, there's a ton that I'm walking away with. So for those of you listening, if you're tired of chasing every task and you're ready to build systems that support your brain, not burn it out. What else did you say? All those things that kind of happen with that. Tom, where can they go and find your company and you if they're looking?
So you can find me and my company at X-Ray Automation on pretty much every social media. YouTube is where we release free, educational content every week about automation and AI and workflow design. But if you are looking for help as an individual, as a small business, as even a growing enterprise, we have a service called lowcodeengineers.com. And that's for people who want to do it and learn how to do it. It's really unique collaborative building sessions where you and a low code expert hop on a Zoom call, very similar to this, share screen, and actually build stuff together. The people that hire low code engineers absolutely love it because they get to learn and see how it's done all at the same time. Everything's recorded. You never need to share your passwords. And it's only hourly commitments. So you just hop on for an hour, get help from a low code expert, and be on your way.
I
So I
love
would
that.
say if you want to start incrementally improving your systems, lowcodeengineers.com would be the best place to start.
Oh, that's great. I think I will be definitely getting on there. You and I are going to be following up after this. So, those of you listening, thank you so much for tuning in to What It Takes Business Owners Tell All. If you like this episode, leave us a review, share it with a fellow entrepreneur, or tag us on Instagram at Seeker Solution. And until then, we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Would you or someone you know like to be featured on this podcast? Our applications are now open. Apply today at seekersolution.com and click on the podcast link to get started.